Good morning. Good morning. You have been very patient, and I appreciate your patience. I really do. You're tuned into the morning show of yours truly, Dex the Algo Capitalist. And we got a lot to discuss this morning. It took some time to get everything ready, um, and now we're ready to do this. There's just so much to talk about right now. Um, let's get all the house cleaning stuff done first before we just jump right on in. As you know, our usual time is a lot earlier than now, but like I said, there's so much going on, and you are definitely going to want to tune in and listen all the way through because we have some things to discuss this morning. We're gonna look at these overnight markets because that's what we do. That's our main thing here. But after we do that and go over some of the market headlines, we have to have a discussion. As you know, we do things differently on the morning show here. We don't talk about things the way other people talk about them. We hit them from a direct bullseye perspective. We take a look underneath the surface of things, not just the surface of things. And we're going to talk about some truths. I don't know how long this is going to go. This could be a long show. So I need to prepare you up front. You may want to go get a cup of coffee, find a comfortable chair to get into because we have some things to discuss. All right. So let's take care of the house cleaning first. All right. So overnight markets. You have your US dollar index this morning up 1 pip, trading at 104.24. Still holding on to dear life to this 104 handle. Then you have your euro unchanged at 108.73, pound sterling down 4 at 126.39, and your Aussie dollar down 3 at 65.51. Bitcoin giving some back today after yesterday's huge surge. You're now down $775, trading at 70,355. Ethereum futures also down $51.50 right now at 35.95.50. Crude oil up 8 cents right now at $82.04 a barrel. You have your nat gas unchanged at 179. Gold futures down 80 cents an ounce, trading at $2,197.40 an ounce. Silver down 28 cents this morning at $24.60 per ounce. Copper down a penny at $4. We have Dow futures up 82 points at 39,781. E-mini S&P 500 futures up 11 and 3/4 points at 52.89 and 3/4. E-mini Nasdaq 100 futures up 46 and a quarter point at 18,559.5. And last but not least, the Russell My Hustle up 2.6 points this morning at 20.99 even. As far as our market news, well, we have how to manage risk on a massive market downturn. So people are still concerned that the market could be topping out and about to have a massive pullback followed by even more deeper correction. The Apple Vision Pro quickly became a nightmare for one user and a warning about tech's future, and the private equity firms chomping at a bit for a chance to invest in the NFL. But first, Altman's $100 billion ask. They anointed him the startup industry's latest golden child. Now they're turning on him. Some venture capitalists are growing less impressed with Sam Altman as he reportedly raises a $100 billion funding round for OpenAI. From hardball tactics when raising funds to relentless self-methodizing about his role in the future of tech, Altman's actors are wearing thin on some. It's only natural for critics to emerge when a person reaches a certain level of fame. Altman has eclipsed that benchmark, going from a well-known name within tech circles to one of the industry's key players. Even still, he's mostly avoided controversy except for his ouster turned return last fall, the ongoing feud with Elon Musk. However, his wide reaching ambitions, a sprawling network of investments focused on helping humanity, have some feeling they are more about self promotion. The Altman vibe shift is a representative of the fine line founders often need to balance, but investors want to back visionaries whose charisma and determination for their ideas are undeterred, like Steve Jobs. But when unchecked, those sought after executives can quickly spiral out of control and fall out of favor with those who initially back them. So, trouble in paradise? I'm not surprised. The biggest thing stopping rate cuts could be AI. Hmm. Well, a chief economist at Apollo Global Management pointed to the AI fueled rally in the stock market as the biggest deterrent to the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates. The result could be a worst case scenario for the market, no rate cuts in 2024. Well, we've discussed that idea before. And the issue is that unless the market collapses, they're not going to do anything because they feel they don't have to. So, big market, fall hard. Well, the stock market continues to rip, but some experts remain fearful. Veteran economist David Rosenberg, who has a bearish take on things, mapped out steps to hedge your portfolio, like investing in consumer staples, healthcare, and gold. Yeah, that may not work out this time. Bank of America wants to be the art world's favorite bank. Bank of America negotiates better deals with auction houses on behalf of its clients. The bank's head of art finance, Drew Watson, says that helping sell art and luxury watches and Birkin bags fits into its grand plan. Well, good luck with that, because the last I heard, good luck getting your hands on a Birkin bag. It's not about if you can afford the bag, it's about if they want to sell it to you or not. I'm not so sure about that kind of a business model where people have to chase you down to give you their money for your products when it should be the other way around. You should be chasing people down to take money from them for your products. It's kind of a weird thing here. The Apple Vision Pro represents a scary future. The writer's excitement for the headset quickly vanished over security concerns and the digital isolation it creates. And even if the product ultimately fails, it foreshadows tech trends that are cutting us off from each other. Well, I thought the lockdowns did that. Tesla and SpaceX are collaborating on the new Roadster, while Elon Musk was sparse on details about the collaboration. He told Don Lemon that Tesla will justify the hefty price tag with something that's never existed before. Musk also mentioned that a flying feature wasn't out of the question. Mark Zuckerberg is pulling out all the stops to recruit AI talent. The Meta boss has been tapping up AI researchers from Google's DeepMind by sending them personality written emails. The information reported on Monday stated that Meta has also been offering jobs to candidates without holding any interviews, per the outlet. Nothing new there. Companies have long since done that, where you don't pursue them, they pursue you. Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun is resigning at the end of the year. Calhoun's announcement comes as part of an overhaul of the company's top management, but he insists the decision to leave was 100% his own. The outgoing CEO said the plane maker needs to slow down its production processes and put safety before speed. Well, again, we've talked about corruption, haven't we? And conflict of interest with the oversight departments within the government, haven't we? Wall Street has its eyes on the NFL. The NFL owners are currently in Orlando for their annual meeting, where they'll discuss whether institutional investors can buy passive stakes. If owners agree to the rule change, these private equity firms could benefit. Adam Newman is trying to regain control of WeWork. The Wall Street Journal reported on Monday that Newman has submitted a bid to buy the bankrupt flexible office provider for more than $500 million, citing people familiar with the matter. And in other news, Trump just got a huge 62% discount on his bond. That's extremely rare, legal experts say. Ron DeSantis just signed a bill barring Florida kids under 14 years old from using TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram. So now, if government wasn't big enough, it just wants to get bigger. Now, the nanny state wants to decide if your children can use TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram if they're under 14 years old. Wow, what next? Are they going to say you're too young to have an Xbox or a PlayStation? Really? And you people voted this man back in office? See what I'm saying? I know I sound like a broken clock here. I keep saying the same, repeating the same time over and over again. Look, this election cycle, can you please vote out every Republican and every Democrat, please, and put independents in? I'm serious. Career politicians have to go. All Democrats, all Republicans have to go. Do not elect any more Democrats or Republicans if you want to save your country and your freedom. If you do not listen to me, you are done. America is done. It's finished. The Moscow terror attack could drive a wedge between Russia and one of its longtime allies. Why investors think Reddit is worth $1 billion more than the New York Times. And here's what else is happening today. The U.S. Supreme Court will hear a case regarding the FDA approval of mifepristone, which is commonly used in medically induced abortions. An independent presidential candidate, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is set to announce his presidential running mate. So that is all the housekeeping of the day. But now we need to talk. We need to talk. And there's a lot. And I repeat, there is a lot for us to discuss this morning. So, in case you don't know, here in the DMV is an acronym for the District of Columbia, the state of Maryland, and the state of Virginia, the tri state area. There was a horrific thing that happened in the wee hours of the morning today, where a very large cargo ship ran into the Francis Scott Key Bridge and collapsed the bridge. It was reported that 20 vehicles plunged into the icy cold water below. Supposedly, a handful of them have been rescued. I think the first I heard a report of two people out of all of those people that they were able to rescue, supposedly. For those of you who already know about the story, you've heard the talking points of the mainstream media already, I'm sure. And you're already noticing the script that is being parroted is that it's an ongoing investigation and they don't have any other information for you at this time. It is under investigation. All right. So I want you to just think about something. Let's analyze a situation. We're gonna talk about the facts first, and then we're gonna talk about the other stuff. Now, this accident happened on the morning of inflation data coming out for the markets. I want you to remember that because this is important. All right. I want you to remember that. All right. We had durable goods orders that came out 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard, New York time. All right. Inflation is a thing that is not going away. The Fed cannot control it. Inflation is ravaging the country at this time. These are facts. All right. These are facts. So while we're talking about facts, I want to make sure you understand that this is a fact. Now let's talk about some of the facts of what happened. And then I'm going to show you what really happened. Oh, yeah. I'm going to show you what actually happened because you're not going to see this anywhere else in the mainstream media. I'm going to show you what really happened. But before I show you what happened, let's get into some facts. Let's check some facts about what happened. All right, so here are the facts. All right. This is what we know. And then I'm going to show you what you don't know. So Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed early on Tuesday morning. Fact. A live stream captured the moment a ship collided with one of the bridge's support beams. Fact. Authorities are calling it a mass casualty event and say 20 people went into the water and they have declared a state of emergency. The DMV has some of the worst traffic in the country. All right. I think there was an ongoing battle between Miami, Los Angeles, and the DMV who had the worst traffic. So those are your top 3 traffic areas in the country. All right. So this happening is just right now, DMV is the worst traffic right now because of this. So Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed on Tuesday morning after it was struck by a large container ship. We know that fact. A video of the incident was posted early on Tuesday morning to X, formerly Twitter. In the video, the container ship, the Dolly, is seen colliding with one of the bridge's support beams. Smoke is seen billowing from the ship before the bridge began crumbling. Smoke is seen billowing from the ship before the bridge began crumbling. Before the bridge became crumbling. Again, that is a fact. All right, we're lining up the facts. Smoke billowing from ship before bridge began crumbling. Those are facts. We're going over the facts. Immediately, a major Baltimore traffic alert is put out. Avoid I-695 Southeast Corridor. The I-695 Key Bridge collapsed due to ship strike, the Maryland Transportation Authority said in an X post on Tuesday morning. A representative for the Baltimore Police Department told ABC News that at 1:35 a.m., 1:35 a.m., remember that, Baltimore City Police were notified of a partial bridge collapse with workers possibly in the water at the Francis Scott Key Bridge. So now you have a report of a partial bridge collapse and also saying that workers were possibly in the water. All right. Emergency services teams, including divers. Now we have divers entering into the water. and at least 2 helicopters. Numbers are important. We got divers, and we have at least 2 helicopters responded to the scene. All right. Now, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there because I'm taking my time. I'm easing you into today's scenario. You're not going to hear this anywhere else. I'm telling you right now. You're not going to hear this anywhere else, especially on the mainstream media. All right. This happened at 1:35 a.m. 135. 1 plus 3 plus 5 is 9. 2 helicopters responded to the scene. 9 plus 2 is what? 11. 9/11. 9/11. A 9/11 event. What happened on 9/11? Thousands of lost lives. Major sacrifice. Today, they say, okay, it's not thousands, it's about 20 people, give or take a few. 9/11. Numbers mean something, folks. These numbers were not pulled out of a hat. You cannot make this up. Wes Moore, governor of Maryland, declared a state of emergency early on Tuesday. Moore said he was working to quickly deploy federal resources from the Biden administration, per the BBC. The White House said it was closely monitoring the situation and that there was no indication of any nefarious intent. Stop right there. If an investigation is ongoing and the event just happened, you can't rule out anything. How do you don't know that. You don't even know what you don't know. The incident just happened. How can you jump immediately to draw the conclusion there's no indication of any nefarious intent? There's also no indication that it wasn't nefarious intent. The same thing they did on 9/11. Our hearts go out to the families of those who remain missing as a result of this horrific incident, a spokesperson mentioned to the Business Insider. Stop right there. We know the facts. This happened on the morning of the inflation data. You need to hold on to that piece of information because it's going to be very crucial and critical later on. The timing, the date, and what this represents. All right, let's go more. I'm slow walking you to the guillotine. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, however you say that, said on X that he had offered the Department of Transportation support to Moore and Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott. The Baltimore Fire Department estimates that up to 20 people went into the water, the BBC reported. Baltimore Fire Department Chief James Wallace said at a press conference early Tuesday that 2 people had been recovered from the water and refused service. One refused service while another was transported to a local trauma center in very serious condition, he said. Are you hearing that? The fire department had not made contact with the ship's captain yet, he said. A live stream view of the area at around 3 a.m. local time showed the bridge's structure partially submerged in the harbor and in several places. An unclassified cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency report said that the ship lost propulsion as it was leaving port. ABC News reported. All right. This is a CISA report. CISA. The Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. Have you ever heard of CISA? Maybe today's your first day hearing of this agency. The crew notified officials that they had lost control and warned of a possible collision, the report said, per ABC News. Structural engineer Ian Firth told the BBC that the heavy ship would have struck the bridge support backed by many thousands of metric tons. Many thousands of metric tons. This is also important because it was also reported that this boat was leaving the port under the assumption that it had already dropped its load off and is now empty and was leaving. Are you following here? The support is a very relatively flimsy structure when you look at it. It's a kind of trestle structure with individual legs, he told the outlet. So the bridge has collapsed simply as a result of this very large impact force. Barbara Rosie, an engineering professor at the University of Oxford, stated that according to what I could see online, the bridge has received a huge impact force on one of its supporting structures. The impacting force must have been immense, she said. Interesting how they already had the experts and stuff lined up and ready to give statements and testimony. And this is only hours old. The Dolly is owned by Grace Ocean, a Singapore-based firm. The firm confirmed in a statement on Tuesday morning that their vessel had struck one of the bridge's pillars per trade winds. All crew members, including the two pilots, have been accounted for, and there are no reports of any injuries. There has also been no pollution. Read the firm statement. It had 22 crew on board. 22. Numbers mean something. 22. Not 20 people, not 21 people, not 23 people, but 22. The Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore said in a statement. According to Grace Ocean, the vessel was bound for Colombo, Sri Lanka, when the accident took place. Maersk, the ship's charterer, confirmed that vessel company Synergy Group operates the ship. Maersk spokesperson stated that in a statement that the company is horrified by the events and added that no Maersk employees were on board. How convenient. We are closely following the investigations conducted by authorities and Synergy, it added. As of Tuesday morning, authorities warned mariners and drone operators to avoid the waters and nearby airspace. All right? No fly zone over this area. Baltimore County executives said in an ex post that the authorities are closely monitoring the outgoing situation at the Key Bridge. Our prayers remain with all those impacted. The Francis Scott Key Bridge opened in March of 1977 as the final link in the Baltimore Beltway, according to the MDTA. All right, the Maryland Department of Transportation Authority. It cost $60.3 million to build and is 10.9 miles long, per the MDTA. All right. Now, those were the early preliminary facts. All right. Just fact. Those are facts. I gave you the who, what, where, when. Those are the facts. Right? Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts, right? Now, it's time to take off the mask. Let's peel back the covers a little bit. Now, it has been reported that the captain of this vessel is Ukrainian, and that everyone on board were quote unquote Indians. They were not, you know, African Americans or whatever. Because the company claims to be a diverse, diversification and inclusion type of a company. But then there's something else. Now, they're saying that this was an accident. All right. I don't know about you, but I'm just going to tell you what it is. A port is a very, very, very secure area with more security than you would ever realize. A port is up there with an airport, especially like major major airports, the big hubs. So when you think of a port, a large port like Baltimore being like the largest port on the East Coast, when you think of a port this important, think of a big international hub airport. Okay. Most people are oblivious to the amount of government agencies and security that exist in, on, and around major ports and major airports, especially international airports. This is a port. With ports, you have port authority. All right. You got state and local and federal government departments and agencies all over the place. These are run like clockwork. AI has been used in these locations before NVIDIA even took off the way it did. They have been using technology and AI for a long time. A lot of the stuff there too is done robotically. There are ports, in case you didn't know, where there are hardly any people at all, if any. It's all robots and machines unloading and loading the ships, all of that. It's all mechanicals, okay? AI, automation, mechanical. Everything's checked, double checked, rechecked, hyper checked. Do you know that you got US Customs there too? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They're coming in with the dogs. They got all kind of dogs. They're not just bringing the drug sniffing hounds out. Nah. They got the cadaver dogs. They got bloodhound dogs. They got dogs trained for plastic explosives. You name it. They got the hounds. They got infrared technology. They got technologies you've never even thought of because you don't work in the industry, so you don't know. They know what is coming into those ports before it even hits the port. Did you know that they even remote control take over the vessels once they get into the port and then to push them out of the port? Did you know that? Little to no human involvement. Nothing is going to go down at these places that they do not want to go down. All right? Think of the thousands and thousands of vessels that come in and out of these ports worldwide on a daily basis. Have you ever heard of such an accident? I want you to think about that. Seriously. Have you ever heard of such an accident? Those who don't even care or even have known or even thought about ports are getting a primer on ports this morning. But ports are well-oiled machines. Long before the technology we have today, they were still run like a well-oiled machine. Have you ever heard of a quote-unquote accident like this? Ever? Ever? Oh, it lost control. Yeah, there's something wrong here. So let me get this straight. You're saying that your boat really wasn't seaworthy, and then all of a sudden you didn't realize it until you'd already got to port. dropped off your load and was leaving, and now all of a sudden you're in trouble. Then you got the Coast Guard. You got, let me tell you something. If it even looks like a ship is off course or veering off course, they're going to swoop in. Immediately, they're going to swoop in. Did you know that? That's like air traffic control. Do you know how many near-miss collisions, near-miss air collisions there are on a daily basis worldwide in the aviation space? And yet, how many of those ships, how many of those jets crash into each other? You probably can't even name an incident where two planes collided in the air that you can even remember. And if you can, I bet you can't name enough to fill up a hand, because it just doesn't happen. Is anything possible? Of course, but it just doesn't happen. It's too organized. It's too organized. And it's that way for a reason. Then you got Homeland Security. So you don't think they thought about building infrastructure with these ports where they control everything going in and out of the port? They can lock a port down. They can do all these different things. Do you remember during the lockdowns, now to mention it? Do you remember the lockdowns? Do you remember how many vessels were just out floating, couldn't even dock, just out floating? How many of those vessels collided into each other? How many of those vessels had some kind of power failure where they collided into a bridge or collided into each other? How many of you remember seeing the footages of all the vessels, hundreds of vessels offshore, all cramped next to each other? They couldn't even come in. How many of you remember seeing the cramped parking lot of vessels miles and miles off port? You remember that during the 2020 to 2022 era. You remember that when they were talking about supply chains and all that. You remember that. And everything still went off without a hitch. Everything still went off without a hitch. You had tugboats and stuff backed up, and not one of them crashed into each other. Some of them were out to sea floating longer than they was even supposed to, where it's starting to become a concern, like, we ain't gonna be able to float like this no more. We're gonna need some fuel, we're gonna need some help, we're gonna need something. We just can't sit out here for weeks and weeks like this. We need the port, we need to drop this stuff off and get back up the road. Did you hear of any accidents? Did you hear of one ship saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna make it. There it is. We just ran out of gas. We're no longer in control of the vessel. We don't have no brakes. We can't stop. Oh no, we're about to crash into the port. Look out below." You didn't hear not one of those reports. But on the day of inflation data coming up, showing that it's about to burn a hole major in your wallet, this thing happens. And it's also not a coinky dink that it happens the day after something else happens. In Baltimore, as a matter of fact. See, nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything happens for a reason. Remember, Baltimore is one of your, projects that you voted for. Okay. And they voted to defund the police. So Baltimore City imploded. The police force collapsed. Only 3 officers at one point were patrolling the major district. And it was just something out of a Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome movie. And now you have this happening. Now they're telling you that all this was just a big misunderstanding, a big accident, just a tragic loss of life, blah, blah, blah. Things like this does not happen, folks. Do you know why this was not an accident? It's because they blew up the bridge. That's right, folks. They blew up the bridge. How many of you have seen the footage of them blowing up the bridge? Oh, that's right. You haven't, because they're not showing that on mainstream news. They're not even talking about it on the mainstream news. They don't want you to see it, even know about that on the mainstream news. Mainstream media, oh no, they want to downplay everything. They got to control this narrative. Oh no, 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 no. They can't have that. They can't have that. No, no, no. Uh-uh. You can't, we're not going to talk about those things. We're going to make sure we take down all the cam footages, all the cam footages. Well, ladies and gentlemen, do I have a treat for you? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at the footages. All right? And then you tell me what you think. Do you really think that this was an accident? All right. Well, let's play a little movie. Do you see that? Do you see what I see? Look at that. Seconds before the bridge. Look at this. Explosion, folks. When you're watching the live video feed that they keep showing you in the mainstream media, you don't see no fire. You don't see no explosion like this. Just gonna let this play for a little bit. Look at that. That's an explosion. When you look at the video angle they show you, you don't see any fire. You don't see any explosion. It just looks like the thing hit the bridge and that was it. That's all you see. You don't see this. Uh-huh. Yeah. Now we're going to look at it from another angle. Here we go. That is what I'm talking about. The bridge already started collapsing before the ship even hit it. How do you explain this? Make it make sense. The entire bridge is in the water. Not partial bridge, the entire bridge. Are you seeing what I am showing you? Okay? So, there it is, folks. Live and direct. Make it make sense. I'll wait. I'll give you a minute. Make it make sense. You can't. Debunk this. You can't. Can't. Think about it. Think about it. Folks, something is wrong. I've been telling you there's things just have not been sitting right with me. I said it don't feel right. It don't feel right. Something feels very, very, very wrong. Yeah. Why blow up this bridge? Now, there's more significance behind blowing up the bridge, because do you know what comes through this particular port? A lot of autos, a lot of major industries. So now, as the collapse of America starts to accelerate this year, which you were warned that was going to happen starting in 2024, by 2025, they can look back on this and say, see, this is the real cost of hyperinflation right here. This is why things are going through the roof and you can't get things, and things cost 100% more than they did a month ago. It's because of this. They're going to blame it on the accident. Hyperinflation because of the accident. They had to create a diversion. They had to create something to blame it on so that it looks organic and not on purpose and intentional, which is what it is that they're doing. They're making it on purpose and intentional. Just like they're trying to be slick and hurry up and pass legislation to put vaccines into the vegetables. Yeah, you're not supposed to know about that either. So then we have to ask some really hard questions here. Like, what is all this really for? What are they doing? And why is cocoa more expensive than copper right now? For the first time ever, cocoa is more than $10,000 per ton. Per ton. I remember when it was less than 900, less than $900. And that was before 9/11, back around the year 2000. $900. And that was on an epic spike because of war in the Ivory Coast or whatever. Now it's $10,000 per ton. So there is a 1,000%, more than 1,000% hyperinflated price for cocoa. Cocoa has risen 1,000% in 2 decades. In 20 years, 1,000%. Make it make sense. You can't. You cannot. There's a lot of things happening right now, folks. And one of those is the black horse of famine getting ready to ride, folks. And they're just setting it up for you, setting the stage up for you. So then you got to make something else make sense. Why is the National Guard being deployed during the Great American Eclipse on April the 8th? The National Guard is only supposed to be deployed in emergency situations. But these days, the National Guard is being used for all sorts of things. For example, hundreds of National Guard soldiers are being used to check the bags of those riding the subway system in New York City. That sets a very alarming precedent, and I don't understand why more people aren't upset about this. And now we've learned that the National Guard troops will be deployed during the Great American Eclipse on April the 8th. What in the world do they expect to happen during this eclipse? Or better yet, what are they planning to do? What are they planning to make happen during this eclipse? Without a doubt, either way, it's going to be a historic event. Is it not? But why the National Guard? Why the National Guard? Oklahoma's National Guard is set to be deployed for the upcoming total solar eclipse, when as many as 100,000 people are expected to visit one county. In a statement, the Guard said it would assist emergency management to cope with the unprecedented number of tourists on April the 8th in McCurran County in the southeast of the state. The Guard will provide first responders as well as units with hazmat response capabilities in case of an incident like an industrial fire. I can understand that they feel the need to be prepared, but bringing in the National Guard is overkill, don't you think? Residents of Oklahoma are being urged to stock up on gas and groceries prior to the eclipse, and they're also being instructed to have multiple forms of communication besides their cell phones. Seriously? They want people to do all this for an eclipse that's only going to last for a few minutes? What is going on? Make it make sense. Because it's not right now. It's not making no sense. It's not. But what is making sense is all of these signs of the times, all of these types that are happening. We've been talking about America's crumbling infrastructure for years, and then the bridge collapses. Well, it explodes, actually. It's blown up. People even, witnesses said that they even heard the explosions. So, yeah. What are the people going to do about it? What are we, the people, going to do about all this? This is going to be very interesting to see how this develops. But I guess you just have to be prepared for anything these days, because anything can and will happen, as we see right here before our eyes. America is collapsing. America is in trouble. The economy is in trouble. If I were you, I would not be planning to spend tons of money on vacations, exotic vacations. I wouldn't be buying expensive homes and expensive cars to impress your friends, and buy the latest pair of Jordans or whatever the expensive items are. I would not. I would start living like a miser. I would start getting ready, because you're going to look back and be like, man, I wish the $300,000 I spent on this Lamborghini, that I had the foresight to buy 300,000 sandwiches and freeze dry them, so that on a day like today where I'm hungry, I have something to eat. Because you can't eat your Rolex. You can't eat your mansion. You can't eat your Bugatti. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? All right, folks, ask the tough questions, because we need some answers on what is happening right now. The signs of the times are preparing, being telegraphed to you, saying that this is the end of America as being the world superpower. And the new world order that they've been pushing is upon us. So, what are you going to do? Because at the end of the day, everyone has to answer that question. What are you going to do? All right, you know what it is. System works if you work the system. Bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Share the content with friends, families. You never know who it may help, encourage, or inform. And on that note, I'll see you guys back here this evening. Post waivers. Stay tuned. We're going to talk markets. Peace.